Moosehead knows how to brew beer the way we like it. Because they've been brewing for over half a century right here in the Maritimes, just for us. Now, if you assume that brewing is an art, which it is, then they're right up there with your Michelangelos and your Rembrandts, not to mention your Canadian Group of Seven. And this is how their artistry begins. With this tank car. Just look at the size of it. Can you imagine giving this a wash and wax? Anyway, every week a tank car rolls into Dartmouth and St. John to deliver the basic ingredients you'll find in all the world's great beers, no matter whether they're ales or lager. It's barley malt. Now, are you listening? Glenn, John? Barley malt. It's been used for brewing for about 5,000 years. Give or take a few leap years, of course. Where does it come from? Where else? The barley plant, of course. You know, barley looks like this after it's been harvested, but it's no use to moose it until the outer husks enclosing the grain have been broken down or malted. In the old days, the barley crop would be sent to a maltster who spread it on the floor, covered it with water, let it germinate and dry. Then sometimes he walked on it to separate the husks from the grain. Not anymore, though, thankfully. Nowadays, barley's malted at special malting houses. Naturally, the barley malt that Moosehead uses is the cream of the barley crop. Their brewmaster makes sure it's absolutely free of water, that it's sweet-smelling and always opaque and mealy, because that means it's ideal for brewing great beer. You know, it even tastes good. Brewer's breakfast, they call it. Now, the barley malt's sucked out of the tank car through a series of pipes up into a holding tank. Do you want to know how big that holding tank is? Oh, it's really big. I know, because I climbed it. Up and up and up, following that barley malt. Oh, just a few more steps. Then, when it's needed, the barley malt's transferred right into the brewery to the mill. This beautiful old warhorse in St. John is the mill Moosehead ground their barley malt in years ago. But today, Moosehead uses this ultra-modern one. Now, it does the same thing the old one did, except more efficiently. Just like the blender in your kitchen is faster and more efficient than your fingers. See, what the mill does, it grinds the barley malt to a finer consistency. Now, to people in the know, like me, oh, the ground-up barley malt's called grist. It's fed through this pipe down into the brew house to this enormous pot called a mash tun. Let's go down for a closer peek. Now, whether they're brewing ale or lager, this step's always the first for a brew, here in Dartmouth and St. John. How much malt does Moosehead use? Well, that's one of their brewing secrets. So is the amount of water they mix in. Pure, sparkling, fresh water that's been naturally repurified and refreshened. These enormous blades mix the malt and water, naturally breaking the starch in the malt down and converting it to a sugary solution, sort of the same thing that happens when you mix flour and water for bread. As the temperature rises, the blades keep mixing the malt and water till it breaks down to a mash of sugars and dextrins. And it's really hot down there. Then, once the brewmaster decides that it's good and ready, it's transferred to the lauter tun. Here, let's just take a look at this one in St. John. You know, it takes the better part of a day just to polish this fella. You see, the lauter tun works like a giant coffee filter, with the grain husks that went into making the mash being the actual filter. The mash is strained through the grain bed, water's added so it filters completely through, and the grain bed stays behind. The mash, now that it's filtered through, becomes a wort. Now that's spelled W-O-R-T. The wort passes through this, the grant, naturally clear and beautifully fresh smelling. What do you say we have a little taste? Well, that's not bad. Then it's transferred to one of the most crucial stages in brewing, the brewing kettle. Now, pay attention, Glenn, John, and you'll see one reason why lager tastes like lager, if I can find it, and ale like ale. Ah, yes. All because of this tiny blossom. Now, the Romans called it wolf among sheep. Germans, Hopfo. To us, they're simply hops. It's here and now that the wort is brewed with hops. Hard to believe they impart such a rich flavor and aroma to beer, eh? But be glad they do. Without hops, your beer would taste like a pint of porridge. Although the Romans used hops to brew their beer, it seems that it wasn't until about the 9th century before monks started to use hops in brewing regularly. Now, Moosehead stores their hops down here in their hop cellar, cooled to preserve the hops' flavor. They use hops from the world-famous Yakima Valley in Washington State. Hops from the Hallertau region in Bavaria for traditional lager flavor. And Styrian hops from Yugoslavia. Once the wort comes to a vigorous boil in the brewing kettle, oh, how's that for brewer's jargon?
Not bad!
The brewmaster supervises the addition of hops to the wort, but in special combinations, because each Moosehead brand has its own hop recipe. For Alpine, more Bavarian hops to impart refreshing lager taste and aroma. Talk about having a cold one. For Moosehead, a unique hop blend for traditional ale character. For 10 penny, more Yakima for great maritime ale flavor and taste. For Golden, a light beer, just enough Bavarian and Yakima hops to give golden body and bite. Here's to you. And for special, Yakima, Bavarian, and Styrian hops in perfect harmony for extra special full-bodied flavor. Man, that's some beer. Just how much hops and their exact blend in each brew are two more Moosehead brewing secrets. And so they should be, because they guarantee that Moosehead's beers are real, true maritime beers.